So, usually when we ask the question, what's your number? It has a whole other connotation, as in, how many people have you slept with? But today we are asking the number with a different purpose. Um, I will share my number 110. For some reason, I thought that at 5'7", 110 pounds was the perfect magical number where my life would be good. So today we're talking about that magic number on the scale when everything is perfect, you've reached your goal, your life is amazing, you change as a person, all the whole fantasy that the diet industry shares. Can you relate, Dr. Alisa?
Oh man, the magic number has been on my mind like practically my whole life of trying to get it, but I've also noticed like throughout my life that number's changed just based on variables that I never really gave much attention to. Uh Never really realizing the significance of it, but I know for a lot of the folks I work with, it's usually some 100 point, right? Like for a lot of folks, like if I can just break the 200 number, and I know for me, as somebody who's been in like the mid 250s for a large portion of my life, it's always been like, ooh, once I get past 200, like my life will be better. Once I get to 180, ooh, maybe I'll be able to XYZ behavior. So, it's definitely something that resonates deeply with me, especially since I've dieted for so many years. And every time you go in for that initial diet appointment, they always say, so what is your number? If only they were asking other types of numbers when they ask that question. Um,
Like your
yeah.
IQ,
Right.
the number of your friends, the number of countries you visited. Those
So
are
many more
interesting
interesting
numbers.
things. Right. Exactly. Exactly. And what I really actually love when people talk about numbers now in my sessions because I like to get into what about that number are they so attached to? What was going on in their life? And when we actually start a little bit of digging around that number, people actually reflect on difficult times around that number. Like it's not all rainbows and butterflies after they really start to explore, the circumstances of that time, whether it was a really toxic relationship or extreme dedication to these outrageous health behaviors that are required to be at that number. It's fascinating because we don't really think about the negative aspects of what it requires. We just think about the like ooh la la ideal experience of it. We just tend to forget the rest.
It's really interesting to think about, well, what is the number and what does it represent? Because I have often heard weird numbers. Like instead of I want to be 110, like I said, it would be like I want to be, well, one person wanted to be 118 pounds. 118 pounds, not 115, not 120, 118 pounds. Very, very, very specific number. And so we looked at what's with the 118. It turns out that when she was growing up, the happiest time in her life was when she lived at, wait for it, 118 Rose Street. Okay, it wasn't really Rose Street. I just made that up, but it was
Sure.
118. It was 118, whatever street. And so, in getting to that number, 118, she was unconsciously hoping to get back to that time in her life when she lived at 118 Rose Street and everything was, I guess, rosy. So it's really so fascinating to ponder why that number, right? Not just what will happen, but why that number of all numbers? Why that number? Sometimes it can tell you a lot.
Well, and I I love that you said Rose Street, which I know you were just saying to fill a road name in there, but I can't help but think about how roses have their thorns, right? Like what thorns are part of that rosy experience that you're so attached to. And why do you think your weight is going to help you get to that experience? Why do you think that that number is tied to it? Is it tied to your identity? Is it tied to some form of control? Is it tied to some experience that you really enjoyed? Or maybe there's even like external pressures that are tied to it, which comes up realistically for a lot of people, right? Like you can't get your hip replaced until you reach this weight, or you can't get pregnant until you reach this weight. I mean, we're told so many of these you can'ts until this number from a lot of medical providers, unfortunately. And for some, there are safety considerations, and I'm not going to challenge that because I'm not that type of provider. But I think there's also more to it that we need to better understand before we start throwing out these arbitrary numbers.
And these numbers come from the forking diet industry. I mean, it really just, we talk about this almost every episode, how the diet industry and the, wellness industry that is really the diet industry in disguised, often, not always, but often, sells us this idea that if we reach some perfect magical number, everything in our life will go beautifully. We will be our best self. We will live our ideal lives, and we will be our best self. That is the message that has been given to us over and over and over, and we have bought into it as a society and as a culture. I just flashed on this girl, young woman, who was once in one of my groups, and she was very fixated on this number, losing weight and getting to this number. And when we dug into, well, what's going to happen? Why is your life going to be amazing? And she said, well, I don't know if my life will be amazing, but I'll be smarter. And that
Smarter.
look you just gave me, like, smarter? What? Say what? That was the look on my face. I'd never heard such a thing. I was quite taken aback, and I gave the taken aback look and went, smarter? And she said, yeah. She told me how her sister was really smart, got some like full ride to some Ivy, and that her sister was thinner. And
Mhm.
this person believed that if she were the weight of her sister, somehow if she lost weight on the scale, the number of her IQ would go up. The more alike she was, like her sister in weight, the smarter she'd be. This is how, I mean, that's a very extreme example, but it really speaks to how we really buy into the idea that losing weight is some kind of superpower, can make us smarter, can make us outgoing if we're shy, can change our life, can make people like us better, all the things. No, it's just not forking true. Sorry.
I wish I could tell that person it might be a little bit more manageable to study a little bit more and spend that energy that you're exacerbating on that weight loss and put it towards your brain, right? Whether it's reading or just having interesting conversations with folks that are different than you. And it might not only increase your intelligence, but also increase your joy in life, right? Like weight loss is awful. It decreases your joy in life. So,
But that's the magical thinking, right? That's why it's a
yeah.
magical number. This magical thinking that, oh, we just change this number. We just get to this number and
Poof.
magically. And of course, absolutely, Alisa, you're completely right. Yes, so logical, but this is so psychological, and people are like, we have mass delusion in our culture, in our society. It's delusional. This is delusional thinking, to think that if you lose weight you will have a better life and be a better me. And if you're out there thinking, oh, I know I will because people treat me better when I lost weight, well, maybe they did, or maybe you showed up differently, maybe you felt better in your life, in your body, and because of that you were different, and people were responding to that, not because suddenly there was less of you.
Well, and that's where I really encourage folks when they do get stuck on a number for whatever reason it is, that they try to shift their focus from that magic number weight to whatever values and functions are behind that or what they think are behind it, and to try to focus that metric of attention there. And a lot of folks are like rolling their eyes at me, like, okay, all right. Like, but really, I do want to lose weight. And I'm not challenging that. Like, if you want to lose weight for whatever reason you want to, I'm going to support you in that. But what do you hope will be different in your life as you get closer to that number that you're chasing, that you arbitrarily chose because of the address that you lived at, right? Like what other things can we focus on, and what does feeling well in that body include? What does feeling strong include? Does that include, taking more walks than you're taking currently? Or do you want to get there with the amount of walks you're taking, right? Like, do you want no changes in your lifestyle, but to get to that magic number? Because that's another illusion that we're going to have to address, right? Because you can't change any outcomes by staying stagnant in your lifestyle. So it is a big conversation, and helping folks explore what they want to feel in their body rather than what they want it to weigh is something that people aren't used to thinking about. And that could be descriptions like, oh, I feel energized, I feel like I have stamina, I feel calm, I feel confident, I feel attractive, I feel smart, right? Like any of these other things. And when we dive into it, your weight change is probably not going to be the thing that changes that.
Absolutely. The thing I hear a lot is, I'll be more confident. Okay, and you'll be more confident, and then what? Well, I'll be able to wear that summer dress I haven't worn since I was 5. I mean, not the same dress, obviously. I haven't freely worn a dress without sleeves since I was a kid. I'll wear the dress. Okay, and then what? Where will you wear the dress? Well, I might wear the dress I might accept an invitation and go to a barbecue over the summer. I won't do that now when I can't wear the dress. And then what? Well, I might talk to people. Okay, well, how about if you think that confidence is going to lead you to being able to wear what you want and go to a party and meet people? Why don't you go to a party and meet people? Like, look at what holds you back. Start small. So if you want to talk to more people, talk to more people in a safe way. Start with an online group. Move to something in person where you feel safe. Like, make those the steps that you create to change your life and to give you more confidence. Look at why you're not confident. Make those the steps that you do, rather than weight loss as the sole investment in your future life.
And I will say, as living in a fat body, I have noticed that when my weight fluctuates, my confidence goes with it, right? Whether I'm losing weight and I feel a little bit more confident, or I'm gaining weight and I feel a little less confident, I do notice a tie personally. Even like recently, I've experienced some weight loss, and interestingly, my confidence actually hasn't shifted much this time. And I think that's because of the work that I've done in addressing my confidence. But I think that it takes that psychological work that you were referencing just a few moments ago. And people think that when you lose the weight, it will just have this kind of opposite relationship and all these other things will increase, right? My my IQ will increase, my confidence will increase, my social circle will widen. Like, there's all these assumptions that when we lose weight, these things will just automatically have this response to it. But it doesn't work that way, right? Like, there might be a little bit of change, but as far as sustaining noticeable, significant change in those other domains that are important to you, you will actually have to put in the work to address those. And that's not going to be the work that you're putting into your weight loss, but that's going to be the work that you're putting into your psychological development and emotional awareness, etc. And I don't think people realize that. And a lot of folks that I work with in sessions will say, okay, I'm at that number. Where's the confetti? Where's the friends? Where's all the stuff that I thought and I was promised by the diet industry? And it's like, oh, it's not handed to me. It's not just waiting for me at this finish line. No, it's not. Now we have to shift inward and start doing that work. You don't get to just bypass that work.
And so many people imagine that other people are going to treat them better, be nicer to them when they are thinner, and will even, as I said before, even say, well, I lost weight before and people were nicer to me. They don't imagine that it has something to do with something other than their weight. And yet, if I say to you, hey, do you choose your friends based on their weight? Do you look around at people and say, oh, she's quite thin. I'd love to know her. I'd love to talk to that thin person. No, we we don't describe people as that. When we talk about friends, we don't say, well, you're really gonna like her. She's about 110 pounds. We say
Right.
she's really funny, she's really nice, she's really empathetic, you really like her. We don't describe people in terms of their weight. So why do you think other people are describing you or being drawn to you because of your weight?
I love that. It's like you're talking to somebody and you're the one client you were talking about who wanted to get to 118, and you're talking to them and they're at 119 or 120, and you're trying to have this conversation with them and they're so preoccupied because they're a pound away or they're 2 pounds away. They can't even engage in that conversation because they're so hyper fixated on their deficit, right? Because of that weight. And then all of a sudden you're missing the thing that you were hoping for.
Exactly. Or they're 218, thinking that if they just lost the 100 pounds, their whole lives would change. It reminds me of this person who used to call my woman named Nicole, who used to call my LA Talk radio show. And she would talk about how she gained 2 pounds. And I think once she said what her weight was, and she was quite thin. But these 2 pounds, it might as well have been 200. And she was constantly talking about 2 pounds, and people would actually write me and say, "Oh my God, what is with this woman? Like it's 2 pounds." But I asked her, what are your associations to these 2 pounds and to that very weight that you're on, that you want to get to, and the weight that you are now? And it turned out that when she was a kid, her mom fat shamed her at a certain weight. So it was almost like at 115 pounds, she was likable and lovable and accepted by her mother. Her mother, who once said, and I can say this because it's on, these are recorded. It was a live show that was made into a podcast. So her mother would say to her that if she gained weight, she would rather die. She would rather be dead than gain weight. So her mother had some phobic reaction to
Oh.
to to weight, and made Nicole feel like if she were above that number, she would no longer be lovable, likable, in fact, maybe even dead to her. So for Nicole, that those 2 pounds, that magical number, meant the difference between being loved and cast aside. So it's so important to look at, what does that number mean? Logically, it's 2 pounds. What the fork? Psychologically, it's it's life or death. Does my mother love me or not?
That's just devastating too, because ideally, your mother or a caregiver is going to be the one who teaches you your worth, and that it's unconditional love, and that you're worthy, and here's how to build your self-esteem, and here's how to build your confidence, as we're talking about. And when that's what you're taught at such an early, vulnerable, impressionable age, you're going to hear it and you're going to believe that, and you're going to walk with that belief the rest of your life, right? So I assume this Nicole person you were talking to was an adult and heard that message probably when they were too young to be told something like that. Really, there's no age when that will not hurt you. But the fact that it was told to her so early on in life, it makes a lot of sense to me that she was so attached to that and didn't feel that she was capable or worthy of any type of respect or love for any future relationships. And I think it's important for us to be able to recognize that sometimes those numbers, like I said earlier, are because of something, like some sort of a memory of something good that happened, or maybe a doctor is telling you have to get to that number, or you think you need to get to that number. But I also appreciate what Nina was just saying, that it could be coming from somebody really influential in their lives, and from somebody during a time that you were completely listening and you believed every word of that. And so working through challenging that belief and practicing how to love yourself and think you're worth anything more than you were taught then is going to be vastly more important than any number on that scale. And sometimes it takes way more courage than you're ready to present when you're addressing that. And so giving yourself time and giving yourself that gentle encouragement, and maybe going to therapy to talk to somebody about those thoughts, that's going to be way more helpful for you than trying to get to that number over and over with all the different diet companies that will happily take your money and never ask you a question about that relationship you had with your caregiver.
And it's not about blame, it's about explain, right? I think parents do the best they can. Sometimes their best fails us completely. Other times it fails us in different ways. I will share that when my older daughter was 14, she once said to me, when I said to her, how do you feel about that after some horrible thing that happened at school? How are you feeling about that? She said, oh my God, Mom, stop therapizing me. Oh my God, how am I feeling? Oh my God. And then, slam. So you can't win, right? You can't win.
Thanks for the warning, Nina. I get to look forward to that.
My younger one is going off to college. No, in a few months. If I just said, how do you feel? She'd just look at me like she'd give me the death stare and roll her eyes and be like, fine. So you could do your best as a parent and
Yeah,
still apparently desperately failed your children. But parents do their best, but sometimes their best does fail us. And it's not about, oh, it's their fault, poor me. It's
sure.
about, you know what? This is what happened. Mother who said she'd rather be dead than gain weight. Well, she learned that from somewhere and it was passed on. It affected me, you, and that's how I came to have this relationship with food. So it's knowledge in the service of creating change. Let's face it, it is a lot easier to focus on that magic number and to think about numbers all day long. How many steps do I have? How many calories? How many macros? It's easier to focus on numbers than it is to focus on what's going on with me? What do I need? What do I want? What's missing in my life? What's hurting me right now? What's making me anxious? That's hard, but it's the only way out. The only way out is through, and it is possible. But drop the number.
I appreciate what you're talking about too, about, her mom probably learned it somewhere. And when I work with folks, I like to get into that family tree a little bit to understand the history of fatness and weight and to get an understanding of, likely you are not the first person in your family to be dealing with any sort of weight challenges. And if we can look back and see a little bit more of other folks dealing with it, even if it's just one other person, it usually isn't. There's usually many more folks that are facing any sort of weight challenges, and it gives them a little bit more validation of, oh, I may be impacted by this generational challenge. And I think that's really important because when we are being modeled by a parent who doesn't treat their body well, we're probably going to learn some of the things that they're doing, not because we want to or not because we believe it, just because that's what parenting is. And as Nina just said, parents do the best they can. I know I'm sure as hell doing the best I can, and I'm sure I make mistakes every day. But that's parenting, and we do the best we can, and you can correct as a parent too, right? Like it's never too late to try to adjust the way that you treat yourself in front of your child and adjust the way that you treat your child, especially as it relates to bodies. And I mean, to this day, my mom and I have kind of corrective conversations where her and I talk about the way we want to talk about our bodies, especially in front of my daughter, because now we have 3 generations. And my mom has been incredibly courageous in admitting her own fault of the way that she's mistreated her body in her self-talk. And I've acknowledged how it's affected my belief in my self-talk. And then we're both trying to address it with my daughter. And to me, that is so healing. That makes everything else feel better. And I think those talks, even though they might seem little and maybe minimal impact wise, I think it significantly improves all of our well-being and our relationship with our weight, our relationship with that number, and being able to just try to let go of some of those expectations.
It's beautiful that you can have that. I just want to add this one thing to people. Think about the conversations you have with your friends. Do you greet your friends and say, so how much do you weigh? So how much weight have you lost?
What's your number?
What's your number? If you would not say that to a friend, if that would not be the first thing on your mind, you'd say to your friend, "Hey, how's it going? What's going on?" Like you have a conversation about their inner world. How about try that with yourself? Give it a try. You got this. And then that number can be just a forking number.